It's time now for The Drive on ESPN Blacksburg, AM 1430, 810, FM 94.1, and live on the web at espnblacksburg.com.
It's The Drive on ESPN Blacksburg, and a good evening to all of you. My name is Paul Van Wagoner. That guy right there, Brian, is taking your calls. 961-1430. 961-1430 is the number to call. Love to hear from you today if there's something on your mind, and we are joined by the scouting legend, Jason Stamm, today. How are you?
Oh, man, the legend. You
legend.
found a new way to prop me up every time, Paul.
I would say that if Scout.com has a Hall of Fame, you should be on there. I'm just saying.
Well, I'll make sure that they know you lobbied for that.
You let the powers that be know if they need me to write a strongly worded letter. I will do just that.
That sounds good. I'll keep that in mind.
You can just hear Stan processing right now. Where do I go with this? How do I get out of this rabbit hole?
How do I react to this?
Yeah. I don't want him taking me down this rabbit hole. How do I get out of this? Normally what we do in this segment with Jason is we talk a little bit about specific recruits. I want to talk just with you about Battle at Bristol as a whole. I know that there were recruits there because I follow a few of them on Twitter, and they were tweeting about being at the event. As a whole for Virginia Tech, win, lose, draw, just the whole thing of it, was it good for recruiting?
Yeah, I think it was good because, those are the kind of games that anybody wants to play in. I don't care what level of recruit you are, you want to play in those kind of games and, the biggest college football game ever.
Right.
So the fact that they're playing in those types of games, you saw the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of Tennessee fans there. But there were a lot of Virginia Tech fans too. So, I think the way that the whole thing was set up, the way that Virginia Tech started out that game, I think you really saw how good this team can be. So they just got to clean the fumbles and the penalties up. That's basically what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the basic stuff is in place if they can get some of those mistakes cleaned up.
I mentioned that I follow a few of the recruits on Twitter. I know you follow the vast majority of them on Twitter. What are you hearing from them as a whole, as far as regardless of if they're Virginia Tech commits or not? Just if they were watching that, if it was something that intrigued them.
Yeah, I've talked to a few guys the past few days, even a couple of guys that Virginia Tech has, that are recruited elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Daniel George being one I talked to the other day, big time receiver up in Maryland. It's well received. They're all pretty much saying the same thing. It was cool to see Virginia Tech on that stage. Mm-hmm. They liked again that they're playing those types of opponents and those types of games. And I think anybody who followed Virginia Tech, whether it's a recruit, a fan, anybody who wanted to see them do well, you had to be a little disappointed in the outcome.
Right.
But it was pretty neat to be on that stage for college game day, to be there, for that thing to be hyped up as much as it was. So, recruits are certainly taking notice of that. And, again, this is something, though, that they, Virginia Tech has been kind of spoon-feeding recruits for 3 years now, too. They've been showing them these signs and showing them how it was going to turn out. Obviously, you saw, Devin Hunter unveiled the uniforms a few weeks ago.
Right.
So this isn't something that's been new to these guys. They've known it was coming. And, it's just kind of unfortunate they couldn't make it a little more of a game. But, I've gotten nothing but positive feedback so far.
Well, I got to imagine that their spin point, if you will, or their talking points to those recruits are, look, if you come here next time we play something like this, you make it a closer game, right? That's how you. If you're recruiting these guys and they're like, I don't know, coach, you guys got it handed to you. That's how you spin it with them, right?
Oh, of course. They've got more big games coming. They get Clemson at home. West Virginia coming. They get Notre Dame still. So it's not like they're not playing any more big games. There'll be more opportunities for these guys to play on the big stage. And obviously, you hope season-wise they can play in the ACC championship game, although it may or may not be in Charlotte.
Right,
and then some other bowl games and stuff too. So they've got more chances to play in some big time games. So maybe the Orange Bowl. Obviously you hope to be in the national championship hunt.
Right.
But I think they're definitely pitching that to these guys that, hey, these are the types of games that you come to Virginia Tech, and this is why you come here to play.
The next big one, and correct me if I'm wrong here, and I hope you know the answer to this, is going to be played in the Washington Redskins Stadium, right? That's coming up. Is it next year or the year after?
Yeah, next year they'll be playing West Virginia in FedEx Field, and then they get Clemson at home. So you got a couple of big games next year.
Okay.
I guess coming up here soon. I can't remember if it's 2019, maybe 2018, 2019. I think they don't have too many big games that year. But, they got a lot of stuff coming. I mean, they've scheduled for, 15 years in advance almost. Yeah. So they've got lots of big games coming. And obviously, if you're a recruit, you can look and see exactly who they'll be playing 15 years from now, even though they won't be there.
True, very true. On the basketball side of things, I know you and I have talked about this. Did Virginia Tech have any basketball recruits at Battle at Bristol? I know they like to bring them. They're going to have them probably here over the course of the next couple of weeks at Lane Stadium to kind of show that atmosphere. Did they try to woo anybody with Bristol?
I'm not aware of any. I know they had a few in-home visits, so all the coaches were out this weekend.
Yep.
Daryl Morcell probably being the biggest one they had an in-home with on Saturday. So the coach, even the basketball coaches, I don't think any of them were at the Battle of Bristol. They were all out working. So,
sure.
Big thing with Morcell, I know he loosely talked about taking an official visit to Virginia Tech next weekend. He's not going to do that now.
Okay.
I know they're still very hopeful they can get him on an official. Looks like it would probably have to be that last weekend of September, October, so like the September 30th, October 1st weekend. Of course, they don't have a game that weekend, but you want to get these guys on campus soon, and they're kind of running out of opportunities to get these guys at least to see the atmosphere and everything of games. You've got the next 2 weekends, and then Miami's going to be tough. I mean, I know some guys that will be in that weekend on the football side, basketball-wise. It's just going to be hard for anybody to come that weekend. I mean, I know they're trying to get some of the Oak Hill group to come up for the Miami game and a few others that are close. But anybody who's more than a few hours away, unless they don't happen to have a bye weekend, football-wise for their schedule, it's going to be hard for most anybody to come that weekend or, for that Thursday night for the Miami game.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Talking about the basketball side of things, can you tell me who is supposed to be here over the course of the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, we've got Wavissa Bede, big-time point guard, is supposed to be visiting. Devondre Perry. Ezike Obina is loosely set one towards the end of the month here. So it is kind of disappointing they couldn't get Morcell to come. He'll be at Notre Dame this weekend, Villanova next weekend. I know, you look at that and you think, oh, man, Virginia Tech's out of it. But I know the staff feels very good still about where they stand. They just got to get him to come on another visit. He was just here on an unofficial visit not that long ago, just a few weeks ago. So it's not like they haven't seen him at all. He has been to Blacksburg, but they like to get him back. But maybe this plays well for them because they can maybe get, maybe get his last official visit. I know he doesn't have any left. So taking 2 of them the next 2 weekends. Still working on J.J. Chandler. I know he's got him in his top 5. I still think Western Kentucky is probably the leader there. But he's looking at Virginia Tech and a few others. Again, he just released his top 5 the other day on Twitter. Georgia Tech, USC also involved there. So kind of got to wait and see whether he comes or not. But I know they're hoping to get some of these guys, a lot of them in town, especially next weekend with it being homecoming.
What's the difference? You always talk about official and unofficial visits. What's the difference between an official visit and an unofficial visit? And are they the same for football and basketball?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same for really any sport. Per NCAA rules, every recruit gets 5 official visits during their senior year or leading up to their senior year. Unofficial visits, there's no restriction. You can take as many of those as you want to, but the difference is you're paying your own way with an official visit. Virginia Tech or whoever you're going to visit, they pay everything for you and a guest. So whether they got to fly you in, whether they got to get your rental car, hotel, everything's paid for, your food, all that stuff. And plus, if you're on an official visit, it gives the coaches and the everybody in the program. You get 48 hours to sit down and go over film. Really get to know these guys. Whether as far as like unofficials, they're limited and they can't always have the time to talk to you and everything. So official, they really set aside time to spend with these guys and talk with them and get them to meet academic advisors. And I know Whit Babcock has met with a lot of these guys on officials. So really kind of roll out the red carpet for them. But again, you're only limited to 5. And so these are kind of, usually use those for, your 5 finalists or, 5 that you're really, strongly considering.
Mm-hmm. Now, on the unofficial visits, if the coaching staff is around, if they're not out recruiting, you can meet with them, right? It's not like you're hands-off sort of a thing.
Yeah, no, officials, they can definitely meet with them.
What about
they're
on
not
the
really
unofficials?
Restricted by anything on an official visit.
What about the unofficials?
Unofficial, depends on what I guess the time of the year. I'll give an example, like for football, if Virginia Tech, technically since Tennessee was the home team for the Battle of Bristol, the Virginia Tech coaches weren't allowed to speak with any recruits if they were at the game, whereas Tennessee could go up and talk to these guys.
Okay.
But then for a road game, if they're in North Carolina, even if it's somebody that Virginia Tech and North Carolina are both recruiting,
right?
If he's on a visit to North Carolina, Virginia Tech's coaches cannot have any communication with him during that visit. So you're restricted a lot more on those unofficial visits. Official visits, you pretty much have their full attention.
Gotcha. Okay. I wanna circle back here to basketball recruiting because I know that a lot of these kids want to kind of make their decision. What is the signing period for these high school seniors for basketball?
Yeah, the signing period starts in November. They have, I believe it's a week and a half to sign. And if they don't sign, then they have to wait until the spring signing period, which is like April. So I can't remember, maybe in March this year. I got to look at the calendar. But anyway, there's a spring signing period, so that's their second opportunity to sign and letter of intent. Of course, there are ways that these guys can kind of opt out of that and sign just like a grant and aid form. So basically, they're agreeing. It's an agreement. Basically, you're on track to get a scholarship, but they're not bound by that. A letter of intent, you're bound to the school, and then the school has to release you. And we've seen, even if it's a case of Henry Murphy, he had a lot of trouble getting released from a small Division II, I can't remember, Division II or Division III school.
Division II, yeah.
Kind of a, it was a whole series of stuff to get him out of that. So, it's up to the schools. Once you sign your letter of intent, even if you want to leave the next day, it doesn't matter. The school has to release you from that, and a lot of times there's restrictions. They won't let you transfer within the conference or within the state. I don't know. It's different kind of restrictions, but you really put your fate in the school's hands with a letter of intent.
The basketball signing period's a little different than football because football, you basically just have National Signing Day, right?
Well, you got signing day. Signing day is the very first day that they have to sign. There's a signing period again for football also. A couple weeks. But signing day is such a big deal because it's the first time that the very first day that they're allowed to sign and make themselves official. And obviously, it's become such a big event.
Yeah.
And all the schools want to be able to announce you and kind of make a big deal about you and stuff. So they want everybody to sign on that first day. But you get guys that will wait. A couple weeks or so after, and obviously, a lot of times those are interesting situations that are the reason why they go on that long.
Well, I remember Terrell Pryor at Ohio State did that. He waited for a couple of weeks, I think, before he eventually signed with the Buckeyes.
Yeah, it happens. There's always guys every year that that maybe are a few weeks later. Bryce Brown 2 years ago was such a big deal, and it happens every year where you're going to have guys that. Just for whatever reason want to delay it. Maybe they want to take visits elsewhere. Demetrius Robertson was such a big deal earlier this year. He still was taking official visits during the weekend after National Signing Day, and he still had kind of went on for a few weeks, and I think maybe even a month before he made his decision. So it happens. These guys just whatever reason, there's usually a reason why you don't sign on signing day.
Right. There was one last thing before we let you go. By the way, Jason Stamm joining us, Scouts.com, the VT Zone. We encourage you to check out their site. Lots of great stuff on there, especially if you're a Hokie fan. The masses are clamoring. They want to know about a picture that was posted on Twitter of one Jason Stamm with a bunch of Tennessee people. Apparently, big controversy around Blacksburg. Jason Stamm, what were you doing with the Tennessee people?
Man, I didn't realize that I was stirring up such a controversy or anything here. No, I mean I've got a lot of connections through. I've been doing this for almost 10 years now. So started out at Western Kentucky. I know a lot of the guys on the Tennessee staff. Even some other ones that I didn't get a chance to meet with. I know pretty well. Zach Azani, Nick Sheridan, all those guys were at one point at Western Kentucky. So I've kept tabs on them, but. It's part of why I feel like I've, got a pretty good base of what's going on.
Right.
I've got a lot of sources throughout different schools, and I can bounce stuff off of them. They'll tell me who they're looking at, who they're not looking at. Hey, this guy's, we didn't have a firm offer or something yet. So,
right.
It's stuff like that allows me to be able to cover Virginia Tech the way I do.
And you do a darn fine job of it. I'll stop spreading that rumor about Tennessee and you. I apologize. Honestly, I didn't. I thought it was bigger than that. Jason Stamm is with Scouts.com and the VT Zone. Seriously, if you haven't checked out their website yet, do so. They do have great deals for you, too, if you sign up and become a member. Lots of deals on tickets and also merchandise and jerseys and things of that nature. Plus, I believe, will you be tailgating on Saturday, sir?
Oh, we will be tailgating, Paul. We've got Bull and Bones Wings. So they're one of our sponsors this year. So lots of burgers, hot dogs. We got all kinds of people that'll bring all kinds of homemade side dishes and everything. So yeah, if you're walking, especially from Chicken Hill lot,
yep.
If you're walking towards the stadium, you can't miss us. We're right in lot 4, right on the side with Beamer Way. So we'll have a banner up. Of course, you'll be smelling the Bull and Bones Wings, I'm sure, but. Definitely come by, talk to some other Hokies fans, introduce yourself. Anybody's welcome. So we're definitely expecting a good crowd.
Immediately after our pregame show from Tots, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my Uber driver just drop me off right in front of your spot. Does that work?
Hey, I told you last time, Paul, you're not going to find anything in the press box as good as what we're grilling up down there. Even those wings, that's the best wings in town.
Count me in, man. I'll see you on Saturday.
All right, Paul. Sounds
all right,
good.
Jason. Thank you. As always, I appreciate your time. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Yeah, don't be spreading any more rumors about me.
No, I'm done, man. I'm done. You can count on me. Jason Stamm, the VT Zone, Scouts.com. Take care. We'll talk to you.
All right.
There you go. Good stuff. When you look at an event like Battle at Bristol, win, lose, or draw, that definitely has to help Virginia Tech from a recruiting standpoint, and Jason's on point with a lot of his stuff. Coming up, Mike McDaniel. Jason mentioned it. I touched on it briefly at the end of last hour. Mike McDaniel and I are going to talk about the changing of the venue from North Carolina to, we believe it's going to be the Orange Bowl in Miami. That's what we're hearing report-wise. We'll talk to Mike about that coming up at the bottom of the hour. Before we do that, fines were handed out to the Denver Broncos. We'll talk about that on The Drive.
Hello! You're listening to ESPN Blacksburg, AM 1430.